Welcome to Alternate Endings.
Half audiobook.
Half podcast.
Full apocalypse.
New episodes every Monday.
Start your week considering how everything could come to an end.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the recap episode for Mind Over Matter. Our first episode recorded at a distance. Your boy Ivan here, recording live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and also...
Where are we?
I think we're in Colorado, man.
Me and Tyler. Colorado. Fort Collins, Colorado.
Nico, Tyler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, out of the gate, what were your all's thoughts about this story? I think this is very different from any of the stories we've had before on the show.
Entirely so. I think the way that you introduce it is not mind control, or not control, but like mind reading. But also at the same time, it's hard to grasp as to how you can understand someone's thoughts, but you're also not reading their mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I tried to explain it. It's kind of a hard concept to put into words, but in essence, when you put this device on, it's not reading. So like, let's say I were to do this product and use this technology with Nico. I wouldn't get to read Nico's thoughts, but instead I would begin thinking as if I were Nico.
It's a mind warp. The whole preface of this is like, you say the characters don't want to think of themselves as that person. So like, when you start thinking of yourself, do you essentially read their mind as to how they think about you?
Right. So like, if I was mind mapping with Nico and I started considering me, Ivan, from Nico's perspective, what I thought a lot of people would run into is seeing
big mistake,
how different everybody thinks about them versus who they've tried to be their whole life. And I just felt like for a lot of people that would be such a stressful and odd experience, because they'd be sitting there thinking like, wait, my good friend thinks this about me, but that's not who I am at all.
That's who you are in their eyes, my friend. Do not mind map with me, okay? Trust me. You're going to see some shit you don't want to see. No, I'm just kidding, because honestly, like, if a person was to mind map with me, like you're saying, like, would I be afraid? Like, oh, I kind of don't want you to mind map with me and, like, think about yourself, because, like, what are even subconscious thoughts that, you know, that maybe, like, things that just you can't control? You see a person and you automatically think a certain thought. Those are the things that people will be like, ooh, I didn't even know. I didn't realize, like, you even thought that thought about me. When in my eyes, it wasn't even, like, couldn't even comprehend that or didn't even picture that.
And that's what makes it so crazy with the conversation between the realtor's wife and the husband, or not the recollection of it, because maybe he really did mean that he loved her. You don't know what each thought meant.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense to a new person.
Well, it makes sense to you. And you got to remember, you're like, a person is a combination of an entire lifetime. And that's why you're talking about kids, which is, I'll go back to that. But like, a person is a combination of like so many things, you know, all these experiences. And so when you kind of take a thought, it's almost like taking it out of context. If you know what I'm saying? Like, all these things that have added up to like you having a certain thought, and then someone comes in and just takes that thought. Well, obviously it's going to be something totally different to you, you know, and that's, I could see it being like a crazy experience. And I live in Denver, decriminalized. I just did mushrooms the other day, and that was a trip. And so like that, when you said that in the story, I was like, yeah, this would be nothing compared to that. Like, or vice versa, mushrooms would be nothing compared to the mind mapping, because that would be insane. Just thinking.
Right. I just don't know that we would be ready for putting that on. People are like, oh, this is fun. And then, whom, 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 like they start experiencing. And like the narrator said, he couldn't even handle how his mom thought about something as simple as trains. He just thought, like, why would you think that? That's so stupid.
Yeah, the other day my mom was trying to fix the plumbing in the house, and I was like,
yeah, plumbing and trains, man.
Well, hold on. We're talking about moms and thoughts here. So I'm sitting there and like, this thing is leaking really bad. And so I'm sitting there trying to fix it, and I'm like, all right, there's something wrong inside of the pipe. And so my mom's like, all right, well, let's just go replace the knob on the outside. nothing to do with the internals. And I'm like, okay, Mom, this isn't going to work. Like, trust me, this is an internal thing. And she's like, no, we have to do it anyway. And I'm like, you're going to be wasting $70 just for no reason. And then so I was like, please stop and just like explain this thought, how you see it. Like, please explain it to me because I just do not understand what you're thinking. And I was like, just tell me, like, explain it from the start. And then she's like, I just want to do it. It's like,
that the application of it is incredible because you and your mom right then could have figured out a pipe issue.
And then I'd been like, Mom,
just put it on. Just listen. And she'd be like, oh, I get you.
Oh, yeah, let her read my mind.
Yeah,
see it from my perspective.
Yeah, just that issue.
But if I read it from her perspective, then I'd be like,
you're an idiot.
Well, maybe what if it was something like you see it and you're like, oh, okay, like she believes that she's right, and like it's subjective. Like no one's really right. It's just like,
and I think that's the whole part of this, Ivan. At least that's what I took from it, is that it's all subjective.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of people just would not be able to handle how flimsy reality is, and just every single thing. Like if they were to pick up a paper plate and mind map it with somebody else, just the different perspective on all the little things, much less the big, important things like religion and parenting and children and friendship, don't know that the average person has thought enough about every little nuance and how flimsy reality really is. And I think it would unwind a lot of people where they just couldn't handle it. They'd break down. There'd be, a lot of people quitting their jobs because they just feel like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in continuing to be a veterinarian when everybody thinks this in the world? Some people would do great, like the narrator's parents. They enjoyed it. It was fun for them. And he could only ruminate about how his parents were able to embrace it so much.
They're swingers, 100%. I don't know if you wrote it that way. My parents use the technology all the time. They have like a set night a week where they use it, and they have friends over, and it's super weird, but like they're just mind mapping. No,
they love it.
Right. Orgies.
Matt, don't think about it.
Yeah,
man.
Matt's parents are having orgies.
I was thinking about other applications for the technology, and I saw this movie a while back where it was a doctor. You could wear it was Black Mirror, where the doctor could wear this pain thing that he could feel the pain or something like that. Do you remember that one? So I wonder if like a doctor could use the map to go in and just like think like what's hurting, and like literally be able to know exactly where and how to fix a person.
It's so funny you brought that up. I thought about police technology also. Like there's so many applications. With police technology, being able to mind map the one way like the realtor does, to just, you're not reading a mind. So you can't say, did you do this?
You're living a mind.
And exactly, like you're experiencing it as them. So just having the ability to be like, how do you feel about this one person? You can tell the contempt and the desire to kill. Maybe that's what can help convict. Just figuring out how they feel about any case. I mean, even in the case of, was it Jessica, her kid or her brother?
Her brother, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like being able to do the mind map with him and be like, okay, are you a pedophile and you're interested in these kids? Or you just want it? I mean, either way, he kidnapped them. So it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Like, what are your intentions with it? I feel like the whole justice system would change.
Yeah, it's the ultimate lie detector because we no longer have to ask you about a crime scene. We just put the mind map on you and then think about this crime. And if all of a sudden you're accessing memories, then shit, we know you did it.
But what if someone, has dementia or something?
That's a very good point.
The ultimate, we can make a whole world with this.
Dude, this mind map is so fucking, there's so many levels.
And in addition to children, I thought it'd be fascinating to, like, an 80-year-old person, someone who's elderly, lived a full life of experience, what it would be like for a young kid to put on a mind map for an elderly person and get to think as them.
Benjamin Button.
I feel like it has the potential, if you can handle it, to make you a better person.
Yeah, I entirely agree. How you would raise entire generations differently.
Oh my gosh. But then you're brainwashing them kind of because you're trying to make them think like you were thinking.
No forward progress.
Yeah.
But if you mind map with enough people, it's not just being manipulated to think as that person, but like let's say you did it for 50 people, I feel like it might be able to enhance people's perspectives. They get a lot more empathy because then you get to see what other people truly feel and think like. If you can handle how subjective it all is.
20 million people killed themselves because of this technology. And you're trying to support it? Come on, man.
I'm a dirty capitalist. I work for the company. What can I say?
I knew it. I fucking knew it. Why is it $500?
What are they giving you? Huh?
Yep.
But no, it's crazy. Like, I love that you brought up the whole conspiracy part of it, because a technology, you could go out and buy a skateboard that can drive itself, essentially, like the motor skateboards that are all the rage, for $500.
Okay,
or $150. I think the nice ones.
I pulled out my ass. I really don't know.
I don't know either.
Let's go in
I
the
would
middle.
just guess. Okay, $250. You spend another $250. You can swap minds with the person next to you.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
You ever seen Get Out?
The technology, yeah.
They physically swap. Well, I guess the other guy just dies, but
Yeah, but
To me, this is kind of an exaggerated, squished together over time form of social media. Not to say that social media is bad and it's going to cause anyone to do self-harm or anything, but there are a lot of psychological studies right now looking at the negative long-term effects of people who are growing up with social media. And some can handle it, right? Just like the story. Some, it's made people's lives better. There are YouTube stars and people who have businesses that were only made capable because of Snapchat or Instagram.
Yeah, but I bet they're depressed.
People who are like, Instagram influencers, they wouldn't have their career if it weren't for this program. But it also like can cause a lot of anxiety, and people start to compare themselves against like the perfect version of everyone else. And then we see this kind of pendulum swing between good experiences and really bad. And so as I was typing it, I kind of just had this in my mind of what is social media doing to people? And I tried to turn that volume up to 10 and just kind of think what that might do to people.
that's cool as an influence. That, I mean, I kind of got a little bit of it. You can constantly share your mind and how you think with other people. But just going back a second to how you were saying with coming up in this social media life that we have now, that it encompasses everything. Like, so Ninja, the big streamer, just signed a contract with Mixer, and every time I log on to my Xbox, night or day, it promotes me to go watch him because it says, hey, he's streaming now. I went into a tangent and I was like, well, what does he do with the rest of his life? He's always on here. I get he makes a lot of money, but like, is he losing friends? What do his friends think about this? Like, I think 50, 20 years down the line, we're going to get some sort of like movie documentary about how I hated my life for money. Like,
with him?
Yeah, or at least something of the sort. Just because this whole technology and video games and social media made him huge.
Yeah.
And maybe it just took over too much.
You got the dragon sickness, like in The Hobbit. You obtain a certain amount of wealth, and all of a sudden, your whole goal in life is to make sure that that wealth either keeps growing or that nobody gets to touch it.
And I just think with this technology, it would expand beyond that. Being able, I mean, even the realtor, to be able to know exactly what your client needs, or a doctor, mind map with them and be like, this is exactly what hurts.
It can also be used for really bad things, I feel like. If a person knows exactly, like you were saying, if they kind of know the technique, like, all right, I'm only going in and I'm going to think these specific thoughts, and you like try not to get lost in other thoughts, because I feel like it would be very easy just to drift off. And because how often do you just have thoughts in your own mind, you know?
Yeah. Same
thing in another person's mind. You go in there and then boom, you could get lost. So if you like almost have to learn the skill, Inception style, you know? And so you're in there like...
You know, I hadn't considered till just now if this would work on a mind map technology the way I wrote it. But I wonder if you could mind map with someone and think about their passwords, their social security number, and start rehearsing that to yourself so that when the mind map was over, you could go and write it down.
To remember.
Or you think about like where they kept valuable stuff inside their house, and then you could take it at a later point.
That's why Matt's friend passed away by himself.
But then you'd have to...
Because all the homeless people stole his identity.
You have to train your mind to think the wrong passwords. So that way, when someone goes into your mind, they see what you think, but really your real passwords are hidden inside your drawers.
This is Inception level of layers.
This is big. I can't believe you brought this up. So have you heard about the new extortion hostage scam that's going around with cell phone numbers?
No.
So what they'll do is they'll call you from a person in your life's phone number. So like, let's say it's your girlfriend. They'll call you from your girlfriend's actual phone number, but they've just mapped onto it. And when you answer, they say that they are holding her hostage, and if you don't send money to this account, then they're going to kill her. And they'll say, here, you can talk to her, and they'll put like a girl on the line who's just overwhelmed. She's screaming, and you think it's her, but it's not really her.
Yeah.
And then they get back on the phone, and they're like, yes, put the money in the bank and do these things, and she won't get hurt. And then people are doing it, and they're submitting the money, and then they call their girlfriend back, and girlfriend's at work, and she's untouched because what they did is they mapped onto her phone number and then used her contacts to extort for money. So now people are getting to the point where we're having to set verbal passwords like, all right, if I ever get a phone call from someone in my life, strange, here's our password, or like, here's the secret identity question so that we know it's actually you.
Dude, my mom has
Isn't that absurd?
My mom's had that for years now, but that's just because she's over the top. So she's like telling my sister, if you ever are in trouble, say, because her dog's name is Kodiak, and she's like, say, is Bentley okay? And if I hear that, then I know you're in trouble.
You know what's crazy is my family has the same thing.
So it's getting even more
I'm not going to
now.
say it because...
sorry, Mom. You got to get a new code word.
They know now.
At least 100 people will hear it. Fuck. One of them's going to kidnap Teddy.
But it's crazy.
Devastation.
After you said that, I've heard the story. I think on Reddit I read about something of the same, that they called and tried to extort them, called immediately after, and they were okay.
Yeah, and the way that we can now create like fake videos where they can deep fake people and then just use recorded words, switch them around, change the context,
scary.
and you can make fake videos of people saying things that they've never said. Eventually, technology is going to put us in the place where if it's not happening in front of you, you just don't know if it's true or not.
Exactly.
I mean, it's basically already there. As soon as you hit, I always see the meme, the occurrence of miracles, and it starts real high, and then as soon as photography comes out, it dips really low. And then as soon as Photoshop comes out, it shoots right back up. And it's the same thing that like technology allows us to do so much, whether for good or bad.
The hardest part is like, it is getting to that point where video evidence will not be able to be used anymore. What do you use then? DNA? We'll go back to the 60s, man. There's going to be nothing left. Photographs, video, any video evidence, it won't be able to be used.
Because you can edit
Comes
it
down
so
to basic eyewitness testimony.
Boo!
Which, even then, they've done
It's so fallible.
They've done so many things that they know, especially after certain amounts of time, and questions you ask influence every single step of a witness testimony.
Yeah, you can push them wherever you want. But I just had a thought, going back to the video evidence, is you could have an AI. Wouldn't an AI be able to tell if a video had been altered or something? Because it can literally scan like something so fast and so quick. You could just design an AI to be like, is this real or fake? Boom, we're still back in it. All right, we're good.
Can detect, right.
I mean, I think you're right. What if the AI's in on it?
Probably is.
Okay.
Could be. Counterintelligence, it's real, man.
That's why I just want to go up to the mountains and get away from all of it, man. It's scary out there.
I bet Matt would
Do some more mushrooms.
You know who's listening? Government right now.
One thing I thought about with mind map, and also coming back to what we'd said about social media and how kids are like growing up with Snapchat and Facebook from an early age now, whereas our generation didn't have it till middle school, high school, or even college. If kids could mind map from an early age, like let's say in 5th grade, all 5th graders were able to mind map for the first time, would they be able to adapt a lot better than if you made it to your mid-30s and you put this thing on? And it reminds me kind of like critical periods for language. You know, like if you don't learn a home language by the age of 12 or 13, it's very, very hard for you to ever put together like a sentence structure and make usage of complex language reasons and syntax and such. So it makes me wonder, much with how, you hand a little kid an iPad now, you give them 10 minutes and they've already like installed new things on it. They know exactly what to do. And so it makes me wonder, like mind map, would it be very hard for adults to handle, but kids would flourish with it. And then, 60 years, 100 years, everybody's using it for better.
I actually didn't even consider it in the education form until now, and it's It's ridiculous what you could possibly do. You can have these kids learn beyond what that grade is teaching them at all points. Like you say, you have kids struggling. Hey, just mind map right here. And this person might be able to figure out how to think about it. Or
you don't have to explain anything anymore.
Exactly. I didn't think about that. You mind map into your teacher and they basically explain everything to you.
But the restrictions of the mind map, something like that. It's more like, it's more like a toy than a tool, because unless you can restrict it somehow to be able to, like, when you put this on, you're actually only going to think about certain things. But if it has free power to, like, if I put on the teacher's head, like we were saying, or to read the teacher's thoughts, then a kid would have to think, like, all right, first I have to think about the lesson. I have to think about all these things. Like, it wouldn't be that simple unless the technology is a little bit further, and this is crazy technology. So it could work.
So you're saying it's kind of like a fire hose. Like if you had a fireman's fire hose and all of a sudden it turned on, you're going to have to try really hard to angle it in the right way. And it could be the same thing. Like if you map into someone's brain, it's like dropping into a pool and you have to know where to go. And that could be very challenging.
Right. Exactly. Like you kind of have to have a thought. So it might be harder for kids because they don't know how to think about certain things quite yet. It almost seems to me like it would have to be a skill learned. Like you would have to be able to understand how this technology works. And you're like, all right, I'm going in here just to think a certain way about a certain thing.
I guess kids wouldn't be allowed the dual reciprocity. It would have to be just the teachers going into the kids' minds.
And understanding how they think,
how to teach.
How they see about it. Yeah, and then like, all right, so this is how I can adapt my teaching.
I feel like teaching...
very one-on-one.
Exactly. I was literally just about to say, teaching would become a one-on-one thing, because that way each person can be able to teach to whatever the student needs. Like maybe they'll have, okay, you have a 2-hour block that I'm going to mind map into your mind every day, and then I will teach you based off of what you need for that subject.
And then how powerful would it be if on top of that, instead of a teacher mind mapping with you, it was an AI program that was your own personal tutor. So you have like 30 kids in a room who are mind mapping with an AI whose goal is to teach them math or English or chemistry. And the physical teacher is just like floating around the room and helping kids use this tech. Imagine how much you could learn in a single day. I mean, that would just be astronomical.
We're going to be geniuses.
Yeah, the layers you just drop on me are ridiculous. I went down so many rabbit holes in that moment that, like, what if the AI is like, okay, I can learn a whole lot, but I need the humans to be able to fully reach certain parts I can't get to. I can never get to that part. Let's teach these humans about this subject that I'm missing a part of. And then from their learning, I will learn from that and grow even stronger.
Like the AI is manipulating children to eventually be adults to solve the problems for AI that they haven't figured out themselves.
Exactly. I know this is a crazy rabbit hole from mind maps, but it's blowing my mind right now.
No, it's good. Hey, these sound like future alternate endings stories in the mind map universe.
That could be a whole...
in the mind map
mind map world. Oh my gosh, I'm going to do a bank heist in
each of these. Yeah.
I didn't think about this until I was mid-story, but people dealing with this, going to meetings, and this technology, people are kind of on the fence. Should we ban it? Should we not? But it's still everywhere, and everyone has used it. It really reminds me of alcohol, and it really reminds me of prohibition. That at first, people were really like, whoa, 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 we cannot handle this as a society. It's illegal. Let's take it away. But now, alcohol is everywhere. You can't drive a block in a city without having some store where you can buy some form of alcohol. And for the large majority of society, people are doing okay, and people aren't just going off the rails because we've changed our mindset and what it means to have a relationship with that substance.
And I guess that makes sense with the social media aspect of it, because I'm sure if you looked at the numbers of people who've killed themselves because of social media, like they'd probably be somewhat similar in like the correlation with alcohol. It's how can you ban one but not the other?
Yeah.
How can you ban mind map but you can't ban alcohol? Because when I was listening to it, I was like, well, why wouldn't there's 20 million deaths? Why wouldn't they ever get rid of it? But I'm sure if I looked at the data, I'd be like, why is anyone allowed to get on social media? Why can't anyone drink alcohol? Because you're getting these number of deaths. So makes sense
money.
that exactly money.
Well, I think about vehicles too. On every death chart, they say the number one killer of non-old age is driving in vehicles, and yet no one is making
They're
a move
everywhere.
to outlaw driving, and I think that is interesting.
They're not trying to outlaw it, but they're trying to automate it.
Yeah.
Which at least would be better. But
I think, I would agree. I mean, it's more money for them. That's what I hate that it comes down to, is it's money for everything. The reason they're still producing cars and we don't all drive
bus or train.
Yeah,
or,
exactly. Bus, train to work every day is because of money. I think automating it would be way safer. But again, it's their way of being like, oh, if we can make a car that can automate driving and everyone just does that, at least everyone still owns that car. And they can get new, this one is safer or this one is faster.
Yeah,
we allow you, if you buy this car, you bypass so many security checkpoints. You get around so many lines. Like it's just money to be made.
So what version of the queue of the map are we on? The mind map.
Yeah, is this version 1.0?
3, version 1?
3.0?
Oh, I would think probably as they're meeting in this group, it's probably version 3 or 4.
Okay. It's the Xbox 360.
That's right. Like the Xbox One or PS4. Yeah. All right. So let's say all of us are about to turn 18 years old in this hypothetical scenario. Consider yourself at 18. You have the potential with some friends to pitch in for a mind map, knowing the dangers, seeing what it's done to everyone around you. As an 18-year-old, would you try it out?
Oh, yeah.
I think I would, yep.
Yeah, I think I would too.
That's just the
I'd
thing.
be too curious not to.
It's
exactly
like you said in the very beginning, being able to, I don't know if I would have said like my dog. I mean, obviously my dog, my cat, but like
mind map,
my parents or like, I think I would want to know
animals. We didn't talk about that.
I'd want to know, what does my teacher think about me? At least for me as a kid. Like I grew up, what does my teacher think about me? What did my classmates
Did you
think
actually
about
know
me?
as a kid
I did.
Cared about what people thought about you?
Oh, very much so.
You're a weird
Since
kid.
a little kid, I've always thought about what people care about me. And it's a fault, but I always have.
Well, then the map would have been...
It would have killed me. I'd probably be dead.
You already are.
I am. I'm a zombie.
Okay, gentlemen, were any last thoughts as we wrap up this recap for Mind Over Matter?
Dang, it's already over. I had one more thing I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
Was there any, like, because I know you've based stories off before of, like, true events, any, like, events of the government trying to read people's minds that inspired you for this story, or you kind of just pulled this one out of thin air?
I didn't. When I'm looking back at research articles and such, the only inspiration I had for this was, like, 2 years ago, I read an article where 3 former employees of Snapchat came out and talked about their experiences. They made a lot of money. They did a lot of progress for making Snapchat what it is today. And then once they had done that, they took a look at themselves and they all quit their job because they were not comfortable in the evenings going home and thinking, my job is to get young people addicted to our app on their phones. And they just couldn't take that. And I feel like that's the only direction I had. But I just thought, what a cool perspective it would be, or what a interesting ability it would be, not to read someone else's mind, but to get to be them temporarily.
My last thought is I love the idea of it. I think it perfectly plays into so much of what modern life is. Marketing and advertisement is, I want to get, like you said, I want to get these kids addicted to this certain thing because they know, oh, this is going to release this amount of dopamine. Every single time it does this. Every day, my Snapchat streak goes up. Another bing.
Another
so it's exactly.
Another like.
I love that it dives into that of being able to expand it to a whole world where people can mind map into each other. Crazy idea. Crazy subliminal messaging. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I want the real technology.
I do too.
I think a lot of apocalypses and stories that we have, books and movies, they come from external things, physical things that might kill us. And I really want to do something where people unraveled from the inside out, similar to fictional reality, one of our first stories.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, that's our recap. And with that,
death comes for us all.
Thank you for listening. Next time, we return with a brand new audiobook story, assuming the world is still standing by then.
We would like to thank Kevin MacLeod for his music found on Incompetech.com.